Hi, everyone. My name is Miko, Osada, and I'm from the San Diego County Library. I'm the Youth Services Librarian there. And today I'm here to talk about library programs that we've organized and can organize in the future for undocumented community and immigrants in general. So the question was, why at the library? Luis addressed this a little bit, but so we have at the library, sorry, let me start again. I'm sorry, drawing a blank. The library, unlike its nonprofit organization partners, has physical locations already all across the state. And every time nonprofit partners organize a legal workshop, they have to spend hundreds of dollars on booking a venue. And we can provide this for free. And also, like Luis said, we have a fairly unusual position of being a trusted resource for undocumented residents. And we are planning a collaboration for libraries, other government departments, and nonprofit organizations so we can have a team-based approach on addressing immigrant issues. Of course, we didn't do this on our own. We have found a lot of partners. As Greg said, I got a $5,000 grant to develop a professional workshop development series for undocumented youth and young adults in San Diego County. And we found a great number of people who could help us. First, nonprofit organizations, other county departments, the San Diego County Credit Union, so banks could help us too, and of course, schools and colleges. First, I want to talk a little bit about why personally I got invested in this issue. In the middle here is Nancy, and she is a longtime library regular who has been at my library a long time. She was a teen volunteer, and a few years after knowing her, I found out that she was undocumented. And I helped her through the first DACA process when she went through in 2012. And watching her struggle to access the resources that I take for granted every day was what was the inspiration for this project. So what kind of needs do people like Nancy have, and how can we address those needs at the library? I found that Nancy, first, she just didn't know where to start. So we offered an overview of legal, kind of like Luis just did for you, but the legal background, what DACA is, what the different terms are, what to watch out for. And we had an informational presentation with a community partner called San Diego Immigrant Rights Consortium. And we hosted them at a couple different libraries. Next, so Nancy got her DACA card first in 2012, but they also expire every 2 years. In 2014, she had to renew her card again. So for the first wave DACA applicants, we offered a DACA renewal legal workshop where they could get assistance step by step with pro bono lawyers, filling out the application, even supplying the mailing supplies. So all they had to do was go to the post office and drop it off. So after they got DACA, I saw them struggle with steps that they had never had options to before. So now they had a social security number, but where do you go for your social security card? Where do you get health care now that you have those options? What is a credit card? How does it work? How do you get a bank account? So we had a presentation about the next steps that they could take and how to navigate them. So if we think back to college and applying for college, it was very difficult to apply for us, and also thinking about financial aid and how complicated the FAFSA was. Now, that process is doubly complicated for an undocumented student because they have completely different rules and applications. So we had a Dreamer College Fair and financial aid presentation specifically set up for them. And we had standing room only the first year, and it's now an annual event. It was the first college fair for undocumented students in San Diego County that we know of. And of course, this was a very cost-effective program because all the partners were free. Now, they just got their employment authorization card, but how do you get a job? This is a really complicated process, even for those who have had citizenship, have had social security numbers. And they've also, until this point, not considered that as an option, so they haven't had the practice. So we had a millennial job workshop. It was open to everybody, but we did target our promotion to attendees from previous workshops. And we had volunteers from other county departments, HR departments, who gave one-on-one help for resume writing, interview practice, career counseling, and that's Nancy on the right there. And we also had a Dress for Success event at the same time where we collected business, casual, and business clothes and gave them away for that event. So as we did these programs, we found that there were much more needs. And we found new needs as we went along. For example, in November 2014, President Obama announced DACA and DAPA. And so we arranged an emergency session in January 2015 for an information session again. And we were hoping for 50 and ended up getting 150. So we had to move it really quick to the children's area. And then in January 2015, the undocumented residents could get driver's licenses. So we arranged a Spanish language DMV review class so that they would have a way to study. And that began in March and goes on every month. That's just what our library system has been doing, although we have much more planned in the future. And other advocates from more library systems have done a lot of things also. Now libraries are providing, we have a long history of helping immigrant communities. And so, for example, we have ESL classes, we have citizenship instruction, we have literacy resources that I personally benefited as a child growing up with recent immigrant parents. But now libraries are providing DACA workshop and resource fairs like we did across the country. We have Fresno Library set up dedicated spaces for immigrant integration information. They're called Citizenship Corners. Azusa City Library, they are creating a 10-week in-depth curriculum for civic integration. And at least 4 library systems across the country are approving staff members to get BIA accredited so they can practice some form of immigration law legally in the libraries, and they're able to give legal advice. Does anyone have any questions? My contact information is right up there.
So tell us a little bit about the program that helped people come to the library and get the materials together, the documentation that they needed for DACA.
The documentation that the application workshop. So the application workshop is organized by our partner who have a lot of experience doing this already in other venues. But it is organized by station. The first station is check-in, and then they get ushered into an orientation where they get a general overview. Then they go to form prep, and trained volunteers help them fill out the application step by step because paperwork is so difficult, especially if you don't speak very much English. And then once that's done, this is the most crucial part, a lawyer has to look over the application to make sure that everything is kosher and looks good. And then they check out, they make copies at the library for both to send in and then for the applicant to keep. And then after that, they're finished.
Right, and so how long does that take? You come to the library with this stuff and go to the 3 different stations.
Yes. It takes about a couple hours. I think we had 27 applicants the year we did it, and it took about from 9 until 2:30-ish. And also, before this step-by-step legal workshops, we've also broken off the document preparation into separate sessions so that they can come, they sign up for the overview session and get information on what they need. Then they get help gathering their documents at another session. So that preparation process has already begun.
The other thing I remember, and Luis, you said this too, when I first heard you speak, like a lot of it it's the outreach, it's the outreach, right? It's getting the people there to participate in the program, right? Like you can't just send out a blast email and expect everyone who speaks Zapoteka, right, to show up at the library and have it. Can you speak to that a little bit? That it's really, it's like you, everyone making the effort to go out and get people to come to the trusted institution, yeah?
Yes, so libraries are not considered a traditional place to get immigration help. So if we had just put up flyers in a library like we do for other programs like Storytime, then nobody would have come. But so you have to really go out, especially to churches. Nonprofits have already been doing the work. We tried health clinics. And so you really had to get out there and try different creative ways of getting to different sources to get the information out. Because if you just, sat and did what the usual stuff, you couldn't get any attendees. And that was the big difference for me as a youth librarian. Usually I'm used to staying more in the branch to do my programs, but I had to get out of it to reach the target population. Yes?
Most libraries have a youth librarian. Is that something that most have?
I would say most libraries do have a youth services librarian. The smallest branches probably don't, but they have library staff that can fill this role also. And almost all libraries have a story time. They have to have some kind of programming as a requirement. Yes?
Do you know how many successful applicants you have helped since you started the program in San Diego?
The DACA renewal application workshop that we did in November had 27 successful applicants. And then I'm not sure how many came to the last one. So this grant project was from 2014 to 2015. And we repeated a lot of the programs this last year also. We just expanded to another branch in North County. I'm in South County. And I know that they had 97 attendees at their information workshop that just took place a couple weeks ago. So I can only imagine that this reach will get wider and wider.
So the question was to speak a little bit more about the Community Navigator curriculum that we're launching across the U.S. actually. So the idea here, like I mentioned previously, is we just don't have enough BIA accredited reps and attorneys to do all the work. And myself as a BIA accredited rep, when I'm doing a case, I would love it if they came with like a folder for each year of evidence and this is in dreamland. But you do have some individuals that come like that. And then you have the spectrum of I had an individual that I was helping that came literally with a chest, like a big chest of all the papers you can imagine that they've collected in over a decade. And I was like, well, if we're gonna play a game, you're gonna go over to that corner and organize your stuff. Because I just can't be, using my time when I can help someone, help you gather and collect and organize your documents. So there's little things like that a lot of non-attorneys can help with and help hold people's hands and be a little bit more informed of what's going on. So we have, we call them modules. Essentially, they're like different trainings. So we cover topic. We'll start off with an immigration 101. So not only will I cover stuff that I covered today, but we'll talk about what does it mean to be a citizen? What does it mean? Who are these immigration branches? What are all these immigration terms? And we'll have a little discussion about that just so that everyone's on the same page. We'll talk about unlawful practice of law. That's always covered. Great, we're gonna empower you to help your communities, but hold off, you can't do everything. So we really talk about the barriers of what they're allowed and not allowed to do. But the idea here is to amplify our outreach, right? There's only so many Mikos in the world, so we need more people like Miko out in the community, spreading the word, being connected, knowing what's going on to increase our efforts. So we're very excited next week. We're going to be doing one in San Diego County in conjunction with the San Diego County Library. We've invited outside partners. I know we're expecting maybe roughly around 40 individuals, most of these individuals are leaders at nonprofits, although the training is more geared to, grassroots community leaders. We see a high value in training, providing this training for individuals that do work at non-legal immigration services organizations, because many of those individuals will play a role, will interface immigrants. Immigrants will come to their office and ask for help, and they should at least know where to send them, what's going on, what to do. So that's the idea.
So if you were giving advice to a room full of state-level policymakers, where would you suggest they might begin to help us either prepare, right, to handle the kind of this administrative load, or to get out in front of it? Like what is it that, without sort of, the state imposing sort of some cookie-cutter thing for the entire state, to be reflective of, like the diversity of all these different communities? What can we do to help make your life easier?
Resources are always great, right? So a great example, and one thing we're really excited about that I mentioned earlier, is the grant that's being administered by the Department of Social Services. That was an investment that our state gave of roughly $15 million. That is a great and awesome investment, but we hope that another investment like this one will continue to come. I know in the past there's been efforts to give resources to these kind of immigration services, but they've been abused. So we're hoping to turn the page and start anew and continue these efforts.
I just wanted to, I work in the process of immigration training, I'm now doing research, but I think that one of the really important things, what we both talked about in terms of the community navigators and the trusted resources, is that a lot of the immigrant community already interacts with a lot of government officials. For example, the schools. Schools have Spanish language programs where they bring in Spanish-speaking parents or non-English speaking parents for educational purposes, but those same parents, you already have a trusted source, the school, and you have a community who has a lot of immigration needs. You could use them for multiple purposes. Or another example is social workers. Social workers often interact with the community on many different levels. So just the existing government officials who we know already interact with these communities, being able to give them more capacity to provide them with information, to know where the resources are, to direct them to good legal services, I think would be really helpful.
Are there barriers to getting the BIA accreditation?
For whom?
For someone who wants to do that in California?
So you have to be in a nonprofit as a staff or volunteer, or something.
There's nothing California is doing that makes it any more difficult than it would be anywhere else in the country?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, I guess we could facilitate that at a state level by, for example, at a state library level would be to just tell all the libraries, this is an option you have, you should, think about it. Look, the LA library is doing it, maybe you should think of, just encouraging folks, because a lot of folks don't even envision, you have to get them past that, roadblock. Oh, that's not what we do, we never done that, we're not gonna do it type roadblock. That's a lot of the challenges I encountered. There's also no sense of urgency until the programs are actually here, but then it might be too late, your doors might be coming down by then. So I'm still encouraging people, this is the time, we have time to do all these systems and processes now, and training, and get it out of the way so we're as ready as possible. So thank you for your comment. I would say, at a state level, if we work with, if we have the power to control agencies that interact with immigrants, I would say putting together procedures that, if your agency interacts with the immigrants and collects documentation of whatever, if you're a medical agency and you can expedite the process of them collecting the times they went to the doctor, or the times that you interacted with them, that'd be awesome. But at times it's just like in the past, that has been a big challenge for our community.
Miko, did you have anything to add to that? Like what can we do to make your life easier? Gotta use the mic.
Tell them about your Facebook group.
We just created a Facebook group for library staff who are invested in immigration resources and creating programs at libraries. I wanted to speak to trying to reach out to school systems. In my experience with this program, I was told by nonprofit organizations to be very careful when approaching school districts because you don't know who is leading it and how they stand politically. And we don't consider this a political issue because the mission of libraries is to provide quality information, and that includes all legal information. But because immigration is just such a touchy subject, we were told to be very cautious. And we have made contact with some schools and some teachers, but we haven't had much luck approaching a whole district as for partnership or outreach. But as far as making my life easier goes, or making this easier, I think one of the greatest challenges was the politicalness of this issue. It was difficult to navigate and make sure that I wasn't offending somebody that might shut this whole project down. And I think one of the greatest things that we could do is if we had a statewide initiative, including libraries, including nonprofits, including other government departments, and if we had a whole initiative that had all the gravitas of the California government behind it, then I can just say, oh, I'm not just one librarian that thinks this is a great idea. This is a statewide initiative. This is a legitimate thing, and I can bring that more easily to someone like a school board member.